What's going on, guys? This is Lior and welcome back to the channel. Now in this video, I'm going to tackle probably one of the questions I get the most often from new investors, which is how to get into your first fix and flip project, right? That's probably one of the most commonly asked things. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys actionable tips, whether you live in an expensive market like Boston or a cheaper market, of things you can do today to get into your first project. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, as always, if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. It motivates me to put out more video for you guys, gets it out to more people, etc. With that, let's get right into it and talk about how to actually get into your first project, right? Again, this is probably one of the most commonly asked questions, so if you're asking that yourself, don't fret about it. So let's start if you're in a cheaper market, right? Let's say you're not living in an expensive market like Boston, New York City, Los Angeles, whatever it is. And let's say you have the funds, right? You have your own cash to be able to put the down payment on a loan, right? So you're gonna have to start lining up a couple of things. And the first thing you're gonna wanna do is figure out the financing component, which most likely is gonna be a hard money lender, right? Because a hard money lender is gonna be the lender that's gonna provide you the financing for the acquisition, right? So he might give you a loan for 75 or 80% of the acquisition price, as well as the loan for the construction. Now, if you're gonna be a brand new investor, right? Let's say you've never done a project before, some hard money lenders may ask for a resume, right? Because they wanna, even though it's pretty easy to get funded, they do wanna see some experience depending on the project and the complexity of the scope. So if you don't have that experience, there's two things. You may either have to get a partner, which I'll talk about more further along this video, or they might ask you to put more cash down, right? So instead of maybe a 20% down payment, they might say, hey, why don't you put down a 30 or 35% payment? That way they feel a little bit more secure and loan you the money. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is get a few other things in a row, right? So once you figure out the hard money component of it and the financing component, then you're gonna wanna start to actually find a deal, right? You're gonna need a good deal if you're really gonna get into your real fix and flip project. So, there's gonna be multiple avenues to find deals. You can look at MLS, which is basically anything that's listed online. If you want the better deals, right, especially if you're gonna look for something super distressed, you're gonna wanna start maybe networking with agents, right? Real estate agents, wholesalers, anyone else that kind of operates in the market. You're gonna wanna maybe do your own direct mail campaigns, or maybe do your own cold calling, right? And try to find your own leads. So regardless of whether you choose to do path A, which is connect with players in the market, or path B, where you're gonna try and find your own deals, you're gonna have to figure out one marketing channel where you can get access to good leads in order to find those deals that make sense. Now, the next component you want to start to tackle too is figuring out the contracting side, right? So you got to figure out, okay, I'm going to get in a project. How are you going to manage it? Are you going to hire a general contractor, right? Someone, a GC that's going to manage the entire project for you? Or are you going to sub everything out, right? Are you going to be kind of the person overarching the project? And then are you going to go directly find your own electrician, your own plumber, your own carpenter, your own framer, whatever it is, right? So you got to figure out, how am I going to structure the operation? Am I going to go the GC route? Am I going to go the sub route? And what kind of contracts do I need in place? Yeah, I know there's a lot of components, but the final component too is doing due diligence on the actual execution. So depending on the complexity of the project, you might need things like architectural plans. Maybe you need some surveying done. Maybe you need to hire a zoning attorney if you're thinking about maybe doing some sort of expansion, right? So again, depending on the complexity of the project, you want to start to figure out which team members do I need in place, just so that you don't get surprised when you actually get under contract, close on the project, and all of a sudden you figure out, oh crap, I needed XYZ and I just didn't realize it. So now to add a little bit more complexity to this, right? If it wasn't fun enough, let's say you live in an expensive market like I do in Boston, right? Not only do you have to figure out those components, but you also need to figure out the funding, because you don't necessarily have the full 20-25% down payment that you need to get into your first loan. So you're gonna have to figure out a way to either partner with someone, right? Or figure out some sort of joint venture structure, right? Because you're gonna need people to help you get the financing in place. And that's exactly the position I found myself in 2017 right? I was a year out of college. I wanted to do my first project, but I just did not have $150,000 lying around to put as my first down payment onto my first project. So the best way to do it, and if you've seen my other videos on the channel, what I'm biggest believer in is partnerships, especially in a complex business and something like real estate that just has so many moving components. You need to have people on your team that can handle different parts of the execution process. You might ask yourself, well, how do I actually get a partner, right? And I think the easiest and most leverageable way of getting this done is by finding the deal. If you think about it, how would you get an experienced flipper, an experienced investor to come in with you, help you partner? How would you actually motivate them to get you involved, right? And the answer that I found, and that I think still works today, is by finding them the right deal, right? Because if you can go to an investor and say, hey, you know, Mr. Investor, I know you've done a bunch of projects. I'm looking to get in my first one. I've got this really amazing deal I found. Do you want to partner it? I guarantee you most investors will say yes, right? I mean, I do that today. When newer people bring me deals, we've partnered with them and it's worked out really, really good. So if you can figure out a way to find the deal, that will give you the leverage you need to get into your first project, right? So in 2017, when I was trying to do my first 2 projects, that's exactly what I did. I found one deal through a broker contact of mine that I knew. She had an off-market listing and she brought it to me. As soon as she brought it to me, I knew it would be a great deal, and I brought in an experienced developer and we partnered together. And same thing on deal number 2. I was actually doing my own prospecting. I cold called an owner. I found out he wanted to sell, and again, brought that same developer. We partnered together and we were able to get the deal done. Now, I will say one heads up. Don't expect on your first deal to make a killing, right? It's just not gonna happen. I'll be honest, my first 2 deals, those 2 deals I just mentioned, I got very small ownership percentages. I'll tell you guys exactly, I got 5% on one and 10% on the other, right? So I owned very, very little, but I didn't really care as much about the ownership and how much I owned, more than just learning the process, right? That was my number one goal. I wanted to learn how the business works, what I needed to account for, how the daily operations were structured, what are some of the red flags, pitfalls, and believe me, I learned a shit ton, right? I mean, I probably got a full master's degree in literally 2 projects on managing real estate projects. Again, didn't make a ton of money, really barely made anything if you ask me. Had a ton of stress, right? Because I was signing on the loans. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that we ran into some trouble on some of the projects, had major delays, major issues come up. But again, I used those 2 deals as kind of my focal point to learn everything that I know today to be able to continue to execute and do more projects. And now today I can do more and more projects. I obviously have much bigger percent ownerships, you know, and obviously I make a lot more money than I did on those first 2 deals. You're looking to get into your first deal, hopefully this is helpful, guys. Like I said, my advice definitely is focus on trying to find the deal, right? If you can find the deal, it'll give you all the leverage you need to make some sort of money or experience on it, right? Like I said, you can either partner with someone. Worst case scenario, if you can't find a partner, you can always try to broker it if you're licensed, or wholesale it if you're not licensed. But if you can find the deal, you control the pipeline, and I can guarantee you if it's good enough, you'll probably more than likely find an investor or someone that's seasoned to help you out, partner with it, and it'll start building your resume up so you can continue to do more and more projects. So hopefully that's helpful, guys. If you guys have any questions, make sure you shoot them below.